inspiration to me, and I can say with conviction that it would be a huge inspiration for lots of entrepreneurs like me, not just in Bangalore, in India, and across the globe. So we're really honored to confer the Spirit of Thai Trailblazers Award on you, and we're delighted to have you accept it from all of us. I'm speaking on behalf of the entire Thai Bangalore fraternity, the board members, the charter members, hundreds of associate members, and thousands of entrepreneurs in Bangalore who are all with us today as we celebrate your journey and look forward to hearing from you, your learnings, your advice, and your own reflections on building a far more vibrant entrepreneurial ecosystem. So again, a heartfelt gratitude from all of us for being who you are and for being the torchbearer for a lot of us. As a part of our appreciation, we decided that we will plant a tree in your name. This is happening at a lake. This has already happened at a lake in Bangalore, and we will nurture the tree and ensure that this goes a long way in getting into a large tree that can shelter a lot more trees, very much like your journey. On this occasion, we are also proud to partner with Wildlife of Cancer, and for some reason, yes, that's the tree that has been planted. We have the map of that on this. We're also happy to partner with Wildlife for Cancer and make a small contribution from Thai Bangalore on your behalf. And very soon, this lovely photograph of this wonderful peacock in all its glory will reach your office as a token of appreciation from our side. This is an initiative by an entrepreneur in Bangalore, Ramki, who's working towards the cause of retinoplasty in kids. Again, as a token of our appreciation for your journey.
Thank you.
So I know that I'm standing between you and Priya and the audience as we get to learn from you. So this is on behalf of all of us at the board. You played a stellar role in the evolution of Thai itself over the period. I'm sure you'd be aware that Nandan was our founding president for a brief while before Dr. Sridhar Bitta took over. And Bangalore, one of the first chapters in India to have gotten started off and continues to be one of the more vibrant chapters across the globe. And as I mentioned, this is truly an honor for Thai Bangalore to be with you on this day and confer this award. Without further ado, let me call in Priya to get us started on this conversation with you, Mr. Murthy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madan, for that, and for setting the stage really on a conversation that we have been looking forward to for such a long time. And as importantly, thank you so much for that. And Mr. Murthy, to have you here, at the risk of repetition and embarrassing you, such an honor. We have been looking forward to this, and Thai Bangalore takes a lot of reflected glory in terms of what you have done and some of the others that have just, as the name suggests, the spirit of Thai, the trailblazers that you have been and you continue to be in all your avatars. So I want to say first, happy birthday. And I want to put that in context of something which is, I am going to let you speak in a bit, but I have to put this little anecdote in context.
Sure.
So for many years, since I used to be in Diners Club many moons ago, and so of course you remember that, yes. But it was such a, it was a different time, and I'm so glad the whole wheel turns. You and Nandan and Chris been so much in touch at that time for different reasons, and now of course you're in a different galaxy almost, and it's such a joy to see you there. But on the subject of your exciting, milestone birthday recently. For every year since I remember knowing you in the last, say, 25 years, I used to always, on the 18th of August, send out a message to you saying, happy birthday. And very promptly, you would respond saying, "Thank you very much."
Okay.
And very always, this went on like clockwork. And I remembered 18th August for some reason, because it was my uncle-in-law's birthday, my best friend's mother's birthday, and my ex-boss. So 18th August stuck in my mind. It took 15 years for, I think, Pandu in your office to gently tell me that it's 20th of August and not 18th of August. And I was smiling. I could have kicked myself. I said, no, but I had so clearly decided that, your birthday was the same as GL Ganesh and Shivram Mama and my, Auntie Shrilata, and that was it. But for me, that stuck in my mind because it was the spirit that you wanted to acknowledge, that somebody was wishing you on your birthday. It didn't matter. You didn't want to embarrass them by getting the date wrong, right? That you said, okay, well, thank you so much for the good wishes. And today, when I saw the picture which Madan, in his choice of wildlife print, has chosen to give to you, I was especially smiling because he has chosen a peacock, which is exactly the opposite of who you are. So, in terms of being rooted, being, absolutely person of the earth, a person who believes in asceticism and living simply. So I was smiling to myself. I said, this has got to be it. So please forgive me for this long-winded story. And I promise you, the next year on the 20th of August, without I will call you up and I will say a happy birthday on the right day.
Well, thanks a lot, Priya. You've been very, very kind. Now,
such a pleasure.
I speak for 5 minutes now, and then we can
Please.
get a conversation.
Absolutely.
Well, it's an absolute privilege to be present at this Thai function. I have known Thai from its earliest days, perhaps from the day it was founded by Deshpande, Suhas Patil, Kanwal Rekhi, Rajat, many others in the US. And I used to be on their national council for several years in the early part. So it's always, it's something like a homecoming for me. It's an absolute pleasure. Now, Thai is a unique function for a very important reason. And that is, it stands for the Indus entrepreneurs. It stands for the Indus entrepreneurs because it recognized that there was considerable opportunity for entrepreneurship on both sides of the border, in India and in Pakistan. After all, we know there have been several well-known entrepreneurs from India, of course. They are very well known. But there have been a few from Pakistan too. So I think Thai is a unique function, is a unique institution, because pretty early, Thai tried to bring the business people, the entrepreneurs of the two countries together. That to me was a very, very important thing. The second reason why I am very enthused by Thai is because pretty early in my life, almost 50 years ago, and 47 years ago, or 48 years ago, I came to the conclusion that the only way a country can eliminate poverty is not by shouting "Garibi Hatao" like Indira Gandhi used to do, and then get tired and sit down and drink some whatever it is, water or nimbu pani or something. because poor woman, she was shouting all the time, "Garibi hatao, garibi hatao," and all of that. That's not the way you can remove poverty. The way you can remove poverty is by creating more and more jobs with better and better income. Now, the only people that can do this are entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs create larger and larger number of better and better jobs. They also create wealth for themselves and investors. Now, what is the role of the government in such an environment? Now, before that, I want to remind you people that it is not the job of the government to get into creation of jobs, because pretty early in my life, around 75 or so, a friend of mine told me a wonderful quote about governments taking up businesses. He said, he was a Hindi speaking person, he said, जिस देश में सरकार व्यापारी हो जाता है, उस देश में लोग भिखारी हो जाते हैं. That means a country where the government tries to become a businessman, the people of that country will become paupers, destitutes, etc. So therefore, I am glad that we are slowly understanding that it is not the job of the government to become a businessman. The job of the government is to remove every hurdle to these wonderful entrepreneurs that TIE is nurturing, so that they can focus on their task, which as I said before, is to create more and more better and better jobs and to create wealth. The second responsibility of the government is to create a fair, transparent, and efficient tax system that either completely eliminates litigations or minimizes litigations to a large extent. Litigations or tax system ideally should be less than 1% of what they are today. So that is the responsibility of the government. The third responsibility of the government is to use this tax money efficiently and honestly, without corruption, to address the issues of public goods like defense, like education, like healthcare, like nutrition for the poorer people, like civic facilities, etc., transportation, all of them. I think this is where I believe TIE becomes extremely important, because TIE has taken 50% of the responsibility of this system. That is, recognizing and encouraging, attracting, enabling, and empowering entrepreneurs, while its counterpart, that's the government, will do the other important part. So therefore, I am truly honored today, and I thank you people very much for this opportunity. And let me stop here because I was given 5 minutes or so. Yeah.
Mr. Murthy, thank you so much for that. Thank you for accepting our very humble recognition with such such kindness and generosity. As much for your sharing of 3 very simple but important points of where we need to go. Your assertion on conscious compassionate, capitalism, the need to, to keep a tax system low, to provide an enabling atmosphere for entrepreneurs and disperse the tax income well. That is really the way that a country can truly honor and develop itself, all its population, and leverage the cohort of entrepreneurs that are actually waiting to come out of the wings. So that has been beautifully put, and thank you so much for setting the context on that.
Thank you.
And I, with your permission, would like to just share 4 or 5 questions which come to the top of my mind.
Sure.
So, thank you.
Yeah.
So the first question, and this is something which you will appreciate, having the long association that we've had, your association with Thai, is something that I want to understand a little better, which is the whole milieu of in the beginning, the then and the now. In some ways, Mr. Murthy, both you and in a different way, perhaps Thai Bangalore, have been the trigger, the face of entrepreneurial energy. And I certainly don't want to limit by saying Bangalore, because of course the reach is very wide, it's global, it's really huge. But I want to understand a slightly open-ended question, your response to an open-ended question, which is the then and the now, the how it was in the beginning.
I am a karma yogi. I believe in action. I don't believe in pontification. I don't believe in long precepts. I also believe that past is dead, future is uncertain, and therefore the only thing that is certain is the present, and therefore our duty is to act in the living present. I get a little bit surprised when people say, Mera Bharat Mahan, we were this 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. I get a little bit amused. I also believe that there is only one instrument that we have for the world to respect India, and that is performance.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have always believed and acted according to the adage, performance leads to recognition, recognition leads to respect, and respect leads to power. Therefore, if we want India to be an economic power, a sports power, whatever power you want, there is only one antidote, and that is perform on the playing field. So therefore, what is important is to encourage the entrepreneurs who are performing today. So I will not go back to our past, because past is dead, finished. Nobody cares about past. I'm also a believer in those of you who are engineers, definitely electrical engineers. A concept, or statisticians, a concept called Markov chains. Markov chain says, I don't care about what path, what nodes you went through to arrive at the current node. What matters is where you are, in which node you are, and what input you give, so that determines where you go from now. It doesn't matter how you came here. So similarly, for me, what matters is where we are today, So therefore, Priya, my request is that we celebrate today's entrepreneurs. We cheer them from the sidelines. We honor them. We encourage them. And as elders, certainly not you people, but from my perspective as elders, if they want us to advise them, provide whatever little advice you can on the basis of the on the basis of your experience. Now, I am personally very, very impressed with today's entrepreneurs. These are very smart and bright people. Some of them have PhDs from the best universities in the US, Europe, and a few from India. They have become entrepreneurs to solve some tough problems that make the life of businesses and the life of individuals much better in India and even in the world. Now, some of them are operating in B2C area. Some of them are operating, a few of them are operating in B2B area. Fortunately today, due to a set of circumstances, which you people know better than I do, India has become the recipient of a large amount of money from abroad. Thanks to such a rush of funds from outside, with the assumption that India is a land of unfulfilled custom, there is a lot of encouragement given to B2C entrepreneurs. And therefore, you see whatever 66 unicorns or whatever it is, whether it is education, whether it's healthcare, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is insurance, you name it. There are a lot of B2C entrepreneurs. They have a lot of money because these investors have given them pocket full of money. And that's how you see zillions of advertisements. I must say that the main beneficiaries have been the TV channels for receiving these advertisements. But these entrepreneurs are fighting a worthy battle. During our time in 1981, when I founded Infosys along with my bright younger colleagues, the biggest bottleneck we had was friction to business created by the government. Banks didn't understand software. There was no telephone. You waited 7 years to get a telephone connection. Traveling abroad required permission of Reserve Bank of India, which took 10 to 15 days. You name it. The government had very successfully erected a huge iron wall to the dreams of the entrepreneurs those days. But today, that's not the case. Today, thanks to the dissolution of all those things, the market has become the sole determinant for success. That means it is the power of your idea that will determine whether you succeed or not. During our time, I wouldn't say 100%. By and large, there was a possibility that if you had connections with Delhi, you probably would succeed much more than those who are sitting in Bangalore. But today, that's not the case. Today, you have to be a very smart person. As my friend Rahul Bajaj often said, market competition is the best management guru. It teaches you how to satisfy customers. It teaches you how to attract good employees. It teaches you how to attract good investors, etc., etc. The second reason why I respect today's entrepreneurs, and I think they were much smarter than I could ever have been, is because there is a huge competition for talent. As you people know, you're all experts in this, you people know very well. There are three essential ingredients for success in entrepreneurs, in entrepreneurship. One, you need the power of human mind, which comes from good employees. Second, you need customers who are willing to buy your products and services. And of course, third, you need some money. Fortunately, money is not the problem because we already discussed. So today, these entrepreneurs are fighting an extraordinary battle to attract good talent and to attract good customers. Their battle is much more difficult than what our battle was. I have tremendous appreciation for what they are doing, and I salute them. Let me stop here. I took quite some time.
No, that was absolutely fascinating. Thank you for taking that time, because you've walked through a different aspect of the journey, and you've also talked about something that's very important: the shackles that have been removed that we take for granted, but have been such huge issues in the past. And the times of quotas and South Block and all that. So that's something which is really, one wonders how it would have been if that had not been there in the time that an Infi was started. So while thanking you for that response, I'm going to go on to the second one, which is a little, which is a little bit of a play on our Bangalore. So Bangalore, the city that essentially so much has started, and you have taken your roots with Infosys here, in growing Infosys and starting Infosys here. So Bangalore has gone from a city to a verb. And we've had companies like yourself to really thank for it in good ways, and some of it, of course, when you refer to it globally. The global, I wanted to ask you, the Bangalore to Bangalore, the global journey. I want to have your thoughts on what is this global journey? What are your ideas for the future? And what are entrepreneurial legacies related to this?
Yesterday I was talking to some academician, and he asked me, can you give me one reason, one strategic reason why Infosys reached wherever it has in the last 40 years? As you know, on 7th of July, we completed 40 years. I said, I am very thankful to God because He gave us a strategic mindset to use innovation in every area of our operation to earn appreciation for India on the global bazaar, on global stock exchanges, and while making presentations to the global boards. I am also thankful to God for an opportunity to create an environment which welcomed multicultural talent,
Mhm.
and created a platform at Infosys which revered open-mindedness, expertise, meritocracy, hierarchy of ideas, fairness, speed, imagination, transparency, fairness, accountability, and excellence in execution. As you know, Priya, we created India's largest and probably one of the world's largest employee stock option programs, in which Infosys distributed around $20 billion US in just in stock options to our employees. Leave aside the founders and all. That is, we gave away 19%, 19.5% of our market capitalization. What I'm saying is, if all these employees had not sold their stocks at that time, had kept them, today the total wealth we gave away to employees would have been about $20 billion. Now, what is very impressive about Infosys, and I think that's the only company in India, I haven't seen anybody else. I may be wrong, I would like to be corrected, but I haven't. We gave these stocks starting from peons and security guards to executive vice presidents. As late as 2008, when Mr. Chris Gopalakrishnan was the CEO, he came out with an idea and said, we will ensure that as of date, we will give everybody in the company some stocks, at least 5 shares. And we did that. No other company has done this. Let us be very, very clear. During the first 15 years after listing in India, that is between 1993 and when we hit the financial meltdown in 2008, Infosys had the highest revenue growth rate and highest net income margin. We ensured that Infosys acted during the period 1981 to 2011, when all the founders left the company, based on adages like, when in doubt, disclose. The softest pillow is a clear conscience. In God we trust, everybody else brings data to the table. We created Infosys Foundation under Sudhaji's leadership. The foundation addressed the basic needs of the poorest of the poor. We created Infosys Science Foundation to honor research in India. We created the ACM Computing Prize to honor the best young researcher in computer science in the world. It is next only to the Turing Award. It's about $250,000. We created the world's largest corporate university. I have traveled all over the world. There is no other place in the world which can compare with the corporate university of Infosys. Now, Priya, you asked me what the global journey was. I would say that this was the global journey, the whole global journey, the theme of the global journey, the strategic intent of the global journey was to use the power of innovation to create bigger and bigger competitive differentiation with our competitors in a very respectful way, to add more and more and more value to our stakeholders, which includes customers, employees, investors, vendor partners, etc., etc. I don't know if you know this, Priya. We were the first company in India to start a vendor day where we invited all the vendors. We gave them an excellent lunch. We listened to them. We noted down all the problems they faced because of us, and we corrected them. Anyway, if you can sum up the global journey of Infosys in one sentence, it is to say that here's a company that used the power of human mind to create sustainable and differentiating competitive advantage vis-a-vis competitors to add more and more and more value to various stakeholders. Sorry, I took a little bit of time. Yeah.
Always a pleasure. It's this journey that you're sharing with us, which is so rich, because whether you talk about the insights of what you've given away, which is worth, like you said, would be worth 20 billion now, or whether you look at the investment in strategic mindset in terms of moving forward, the egalitarian nature of the enterprise, the fact that you've invested in developing more a more scientific rigor and mindset. These are things which seem long term, but actually investing in the universe brings a lot back to you. And the globalization of Infosys, over and above so many different downturns and economic ups and downs, has been consistent and has always been something that has, the stock market has particularly always valued. I remember you mentioning that, our assets walk out of the door each evening, and it's our job to make sure that they walk back. That's been something which has really been your strength. So your comments on that before my next question.
Sorry?
No, I said that was the comment that stuck in my mind, that my assets walk out of the door. It's such a visual. I love the fact that you've always been able to put into an aphorism. In God we trust, for the rest please bring data. It puts things in perspectives, because it says this is how you deal with us. This is the platform in which we talk. Makes life and expectations that much more easy. So I really like that sharing.
Very interesting. A set of very young, energetic, enthusiastic people, they have produced a book called The Wit and Wisdom of Narayana Murthy. This was about 10 years ago, and I don't know what happened to that, but it is there. Yes, you're right. I have had God has been very kind to give me the power of creating aphorisms, creating adages and all of that. And I'm very, very thankful to God.
Yes, it's a great way to interact, because it puts things, as I said, in perspective. And I'm going to segue into my next question, which is, it seems that I'm lingering on Bangalore, but I will take the advantage that you are and always will be a Bangalorean at heart.
Yeah.
Born in Mysore, I know, but you are a Bangalorean and will always be that first and foremost.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'd like you to comment on, and this is something we've seen, is your deep love for the city and your nurturing, which has been across multiple avenues and multiple focus areas on both the physical city and its robust, or should be robust, economy.
Well, Priya, I hope the members will allow me to be a little bit chauvinistic because you people have asked me that question. I have known Bangalore for more than 60 years. The first time I came to Bangalore from Mysore, where we were living, was in 1960. Bangalore is the city closest to my heart in India for several reasons. First of all, if I may be permitted to say, I am a Kannadiga. Not that it matters, because Bangalore is perhaps the most cosmopolitan city in India. Second, this city has the highest density of educated professionals in India. There is no other city in India which has as high a density of educated professionals as in Bangalore.
Yes.
Third, I'm very proud to say this. I'm very, very proud to say that, though I have been accused of being anti-Kannadiga and all of that, I find that Kannadigas are perhaps the most liberal, kindest, and most tolerant hosts. They're very docile. Perhaps if I have to compare another city in India to that, Bhubaneswar comes closest to my mind, because they're also very docile, very kind, very tolerant people. Fourth, Karnataka is the land that has produced, now I'm deliberately transcending Bangalore. Karnataka is the land that has produced Vishveshwaraya, Shivaram Karant, Kuvempu, my friend S.L. Bhairappa, C.N.R. Rao, Prakash Padukone, Rahul Dravid, Anil Kumble, Triveni, the famous novelist, probably evergreen novelist Triveni, who is no more, of course, the wonderful film producer B.R. Pantulu, probably one of India's best film directors. It is contestable. He could probably even be called the best. I don't know. Puttana Kanagal. Some of the landmarks of Bangalore, like Vidyarthi Bhavan, and I'm sure Madan can fully identify with that.
Absolutely.
Chaudaya Memorial Hall, Rangashankara of my friend Arundhati Nag, Electronic City, Indian Institute of Science, and HAL. All these things make Bangalore unique. Very interestingly, Bangalore remains the leader in high tech, and Bangalore contributes about 35% of total software exports from India. Let's say that our exports is about $120 billion. Just this city alone produces about $40 billion out of that. That's not a bad thing. Not Bombay, not Chennai, not Delhi, not Hyderabad. No other city comes near this city. There's a very important reason, and I alluded to it earlier, and that is people welcome outsiders here. They realize that the strength of Bangalore is in its diversity. The power of Bangalore comes from extraordinary people that come from different parts of the country to this city. In some cases, different parts of the world. They realize that without the smartness, hard work, and ingenuity of these people who come from outside, Karnataka people and Bangalore people will be nothing. So therefore, I think Bangalore, thanks to its policies, Karnataka, thanks to its policies, thanks to its welcoming nature, has been a city that produces $40 billion of software just from one city. I've also found I have had lots of experience with civil servants in different parts of the country. My experience with Karnataka civil servants tell me they're the most progressive group in the country. So, for all these reasons, I am a great admirer of Bangalore. I feel attached to this city. I love the fact that this city is welcoming of people from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. I love the fact that they're open minded to learn from people smarter than them. I love the fact that they respect all the people that have added so much value to this city. So, therefore, Bangalore remains close to my heart. Let me stop here.
I think, thank you, Mr. Murthy. I mean, even more than the words that you have used today, I think the tone and the emphasis, the passion with which you spoke about my city speaks as much. And when you underlined things like $40 billion comes out of this city, you said this with such authority and such ownership. Because, yes, this is a city that is incomparable from so many. And this is a city also, Mr. Murthy, that you have given back and nurtured to make sure that it continues to spew out, this kind of consistent contribution to the economy. But as important, Mr. Murthy, you have also, with the foundation, with the development of entrepreneurship, with the university, there's so many other things that have also been moving forward in your connection with the city. You made some other very interesting points, which were on the ability of Karnataka, since you transcended to Karnataka, in terms of being a melting pot. And I so agree with you. I think we are way beyond Mumbai in the melting pot that we are, because there is such a sense of seamless absorption. And as you said, we have learned from it and we are very tolerant. And I think, there was a conversation today on Twitter from a journalist in Economic Times that was so interesting. She said, I've been in Delhi for most of my life, and I still find it difficult to call myself a Delhiite. But here in Bangalore, people are here for 5 years and they call themselves a Bangalorean. So what is it that is different? So I was trying to understand this, and you answered it in some way or the other, that it quickly absorbs you, and it's a great, great gift.
Oh, absolutely.
You also talked about, No, go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, I mean, nobody here says, why are you not speaking Kannada? No, that is not our style.
Yeah.
That's not how our parents brought up. That's not how our leaders have brought us up. That's not how, our academicians have taught us. They have all taught us that tolerance, generosity, kindness, open-mindedness, treating other people with lot of affection and respect in the initial period of their stay, so that they become one of the city prime citizens. I think these are all result of a certain culture. I always say a nation, a community is as good as its culture. So I'm very, very happy that Karnataka has maintained it. And my hope is that these good aspects will continue, because, as I said before, the only hope for Bangalore is in welcoming more and more and more people from different parts of the country, a few from outside India, just as the United States has done. The strength of US is its ability to attract smart people from all over the world. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And, you were talking about Karnataka officers and, being so progressive. I'd like to just quickly remind you or just highlight that Madan right now is sitting in the academy in Mussoorie, actually doing a visioning exercise for IAS officers at the 20-year-old kind of career stance. And I was telling him how lucky he is to be able to influence those people with purpose discussions on what needs to be done for purposing cities and countries. And there's so much awareness today. So it's so interesting you pointed that out. And Madan, if you'd like to chip in before my next question on that, you must be having a lot of fun on your discussion.
And Mr. Murthy, sitting in Mussoorie, you really got me salivating when you mentioned Vidyarthi Bhavan. I'm really missing the dosas. But, I've decided that the first thing I do after getting down into Bangalore is to get there immediately. But what you said rang so true, because what you're saying is that it is the entire ecosystem that came together that made the magic happen.
Yeah.
And no one single, so every other ecosystem actor reinforced what the other was doing.
Correct.
Right. And I think that's such a critical message, that when there is music being played in consonance, there is orchestra. Otherwise, there's cacophony.
That's right.
Right. And I think that's the central point I'm taking away, which is the conversation I'm having with a fantastic group here, to say, how do we create that music together anchored on purpose and values?
Madan, that brings me to an interesting anecdote. My father used to take me to his friend's house on Sundays to listen to radio.
Okay.
We didn't have radio at home.
Okay, wow.
There used to be a program on Western classical music once a week for an hour.
Okay.
So one day I asked him in the initial thing, why should I listen to this Western classical music? To go to his friend's place, he would be listening. And I started appreciation, but he said something very important. He said, Western classical music teaches you teamwork. On the other hand, in India, it is jugalbandi. If two of us are playing, you have to prove that you're smarter than me. I have to prove that I am smarter than you. There is no teamwork in Indian classical music or in Indian music. He said, on the other hand, in a symphony, there are so many maestros, piano, cello, flute, harpsichord, you name it. They are all working under the direction of the conductor to produce something divine. That's when I became a huge admirer of Western classical music. So I think that is in some way, Bangalore has created a symphony of welcoming culture. I think that's very important.
Exactly.
Madan, if I were to take away a very interesting discussion, I know this is off our main topic, but the difference between Jugalbandi and symphony is a great conversation for you to have with your IS officers. And not just that, it's such a great conversation to have in terms of an orientation and a perspective. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either of them. And symphony is symphony.
No. Yeah.
It's so interesting.
Exactly.
It is an absolutely riveting, for me, you put me on a different path, Ms. Murthy, of thinking. So thank you for that input, Madan. And please go back and tell your officers that you met Mr. Murthy today. And this is some of the things that his inputs were on a symphony. So I hope that will add some value.
Absolutely.
Mr. Murthy, I'm very conscious of the time that we have, and I'm going to just keep it down to two more questions. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure.
Good. Thank you so much, because you've been generous with your time, but I want to be, very respectful. I'm going to ask you that horribly boring question, but I'm going to ask this to you anyway. What are the 3 things, Mr. Murthy, that you would never do again?
I would rather be positive and then say, what are the 3 things that I will always do?
Okay.
First, I'll try to be fair.
Mhm.
See, my colleagues would ask me, what do you want your epitaph to be? I would tell them, I want it to say, here lies a man who tried to be fair in everything he did. There are a few times when I have failed in being fair, no doubt about it, absolutely. But even today, I regret such failures of mine and I make a conscious effort to be fair in everything I do. The second, I will try and be humble because the world is full of smarter and better accomplished people than I am. I am completely aware of it. And therefore, I remind myself every day that there are so many people better than you. Therefore, try and be humble. The third thing is that I will continue to focus on speed of action in everything I do because apathy is India's staple diet. In fact, I would say that if there is one thing unique about India is our apathy, our inability to act. We talk a lot in India when people say when everything is said and done, what they mean is when everything is said and nothing is done. Apathy has actually destroyed most of the possible progress India could have made. Therefore, if you send me an email, you will get a reply quickly. You know, if somebody asks me for some philanthropic donation, either I say yes or I say no, but that answer will go generally within 24 hours. Generally within 24 hours. Unless I have to consult somebody and he or she is not available, etc. But as far as things are under my control, I act quickly. I would say these are the three things I will continue to do as long as I live.
Thank you, Mr. Murthy,
Thank you.
for the focus on humility, for the focus on fairness,
Yeah.
and for quick, timely action.
That's right.
And Priya, if I can just come
I
in
think that
to,
is
yeah, if I can just come in to add a thing, I'm amazed at the walking the talk, Mr. Murthy. I mean, I was responding to my colleagues when we sent you that email with respect to this award. We got your response in under 3 hours.
Yeah.
And I shared your email to my colleagues saying, listen, here is a great man who must be getting thousands of emails in a day, but he still finds time to respond within 3 hours. And we make a lot of excuses on why we couldn't respond. So I really appreciate, what you said. It's evident in your everyday actions. And I think that therein lies the differentiation of performance that you really talked about in your earlier comment.
You know, Madan, you made a very important point. The reason why I act like that is because I respect the time of other people. In India, somehow we don't respect others' time. That's why people come late to meetings. You know, people don't reply on time. People deliberately sit on papers, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I don't do that.
And that's apathy. That's karma yoga in action.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. Fundamental. Switch on the light. Yeah, good, Priya.
Yes.
Yeah. So in fact, Madan, what I was going to ask, the next question was, and I hope that the last one that you will ask. But Mr. Murthy, we know that you don't live in isolation. You have a wonderful ecosystem around you. You've always depended and encouraged the ecosystem at work.
Yeah.
You've respected and encouraged the ecosystem in your home place and around you. But I want you to share a little bit, if you could, on the pillars that have allowed you to stand tall? Which are your family, your friends, your mentors? Because this is such a critical part, and I do not. There is no single path. There's no person who walks alone. Your thoughts on the pillars that have supported you, Mr. Murthy, would be very, very interesting.
Thanks, Priya. My belief, as I said before, is that a nation is only as good as its culture. Its achievements in every field, whether it is science, arts, sports, economy, education, whatever it is, they're all dependent on the kind of culture its citizens have embraced. Doesn't matter, 2000 years ago, we may have been the greatest culture. That doesn't matter. When I say culture, I talk about the current culture. There are several factors that influence the formation of a desirable culture. And those factors are the societal leaders, family, teachers, bosses, co-workers, and friends. Family elders and early teachers play a crucial role in forming the culture of a person. For example, my mother taught me generosity and compassion. My father taught me discipline, hard work, and high aspirations. I believe that primary and secondary school teachers have the biggest influence on the impressionable minds of youngsters. Now, my own culture was very, very heavily influenced by my parents, a secondary school teacher, an engineering college professor, and most importantly, my bosses at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and in Paris. I must confess that the actions of these people, rather than words, were what left an indelible mark on my psyche. By his action, my high school headmaster, Sri K.V. Narayan, Madan, are you from Shadavilas, Mysore, or?
No, my father studied there.
Oh, okay. Okay. My high school headmaster, Sri K.V. Narayan, wrote indelibly on a set of impressionable young minds that a society would make progress only when its citizens treat community property more carefully than they treat their private property. This was a very important lesson that I learned and that we all practiced at Infosys. We never ever used companies' resources for personal convenience. Second, the strong force for the successful journey of Infosys from 1981 till 2014, when I finally left, was our conviction that putting the interest of Infosys in our decision today and accepting deferred gratification would lead to the betterment of every Infosian tomorrow. That nobody argued at Infosys. I mean, among the founders and the early adopters like Mohan Pai and others. These are all extraordinary people. The initial seeds of the quest for global excellence of Infosys were sown in me by a teacher of mine at the National Institute of Engineering, Dr. N. Krishnamurthy. Madan, you studied there, right?
Of course, sir. And we studied with your name being heard every other day. So
And, he took extraordinary care to
yeah,
prepare for his lectures. He was there between 1963 and 67. I studied there from 62 to 67. He had just returned after his PhD from University of Denver in 63. And the preparation that he put in for each class was extraordinary. And on the board he would write in capital letters so that everybody could read what was written, etc. So I asked him once why he took so much of interest in preparing for the class. Because many of the other teachers, I didn't see them taking so much pain. He said, young man, I want to be not the best teacher just in NIE, I want to be the best teacher in the world. This is what I learned when I was doing my PhD in the US. So he was the one who taught us the importance of global excellence. That's how Infosys, we benchmarked in everything with the best in the world. We learned quality from Motorola. We learned human resources practices from Hewlett Packard when Bill Hewlett and David Packard were there in the company. We learned focus on sustained growth in earnings per share, control of costs, and accelerating revenue from Jack Welch at GE, etc., etc. Now, I learned a lot of management lessons from my boss, Professor Krishnaya, at the Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad. He explained through an incident, I won't go into that right now, we don't have that time, why it was important to start every transaction on a zero base and not carry the hysteresis of bias of prior transactions to the current transaction. His advice to me was to live and learn. Live and learn is how I have tried my best to live life since then. I have committed many mistakes, introspected on them, learned lessons, and tried my best not to repeat the same mistakes. Professor Krishnaya also taught me the importance of using data and facts and not opinions and biases to decide each transaction. He taught me to hire juniors smarter than myself and to create a hierarchy of ideas rather than a hierarchy of age and seniority in every discussion. That's what we did at Infosys as long as I was there. My professor did not hector me about these lessons, but he etched them on my mind by his quiet actions. Through a very telling incident, my boss in Paris, Colin Boucher, he was an Englishman from South Africa. He taught me the value of bottom line responsibility for a leader. That's a long story. I will not spend time today, but it was an unbelievable experience. So he taught, what does it mean to be a leader? How does a leader demonstrate bottom line responsibility, etc.? So I've learned a lot from my parents, from my teachers, and my bosses. That's what I would say, Priya.
Mr. Murthy, thank you so much. This has been riveting. Every single word that you've said, whether has resonated, whether you're talking about, a zero-based discussion, whether you're achieving global excellence, the kind of work that goes in from a teacher to reinvent himself at every class because he believes in the student deserving the best. Absolutely fantastic. I mean, just fantastic. I mean, I'm just so blown away by what you've said. Also, because it seems so beautiful that from the benefit of hindsight today, we can understand all these wonderful experiences and anecdotes and perspectives that you have learned. But look at it from hindsight as how much it has shaped you and shaped you to be, the entrepreneur that you are, the person who has kept humility, action, and fairness as part of your pillars of growth and your pillars of movement ahead. It's fascinating. And I'm going to add a little bit, which is a personal thing. For me, when you were talking, I was so moved by remembering my own father-in-law, Dr. Mallikarjunan, who, as we speak, he passed away about 10 years ago, but when he was called Ajata Shatru because nobody would ever have a fight with him. An amazing man, a Fulbright scholar who chose to go to Sagar in Madhya Pradesh to teach. From Chennai, he went there. But today we have a scholarship that we're putting up as we speak in his name in Sagar after so many years. But a man who taught and imprinted so many minds that we still meet people today who say, we remember Dr. Mallikarjunan. So to hear you, Mr. Murthy, just gave me such a sense of warmth and remembrance about how much these pillars, whether they're academicians, their family, their parents, or friends who are really, really mean well by us, what a learning it's been. This has been an extraordinary sharing, Mr. Murthy. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much it has meant to me to hear that, say that. I'm going to end with the last question. I'm so conscious. I'm going to leave it to Madan to ask, what has been, and to jump in on this question, Madan, if you may, and I promise you this will be, we won't hold up your time any longer. What do you think, Mr. Murthy, has been the biggest change in the startup climate in the last 30 years? And related to that, what should industry for us, specifically focused on entrepreneurship like TIE, do? Madan, would you like to just add to the question before we?
No, I think that's pretty much so. The other way to look at this, this question, Mr. Murthy, is that if we were to envision another 30 years, and it's 40 years since Infosys started, right? If you were to take a view into the next 40 years, as an ecosystem, as an orchestra, what should we be doing together as an ecosystem to make sure that the momentum that's been set and the wheels that have been set into motion continues to accelerate further over the next 40 years?
Well, it's, I don't have a crystal ball. And as Yogi Berra said, predicting is extremely difficult, particularly when it is about the future. What I can say from a set of observations of the past and how things moved in the last 30 years, I can only project what is likely to happen, but I may be completely wrong. One thing is that India will become a richer country. The per capita GDP will probably get to about maybe $8,000-10,000. There will be even bigger competition for talent. The quality of innovation in India will improve. India will see a lot of fundamental inventions and innovations happening in the country, thanks to our future entrepreneurs. I do believe that there will be a few universities in India that will attract talent from the top quality countries in the world. I don't know which ones will be at that point of time. But whoever it is, India will be on the radar screen, and youngsters from those countries would want to come and study here like we all want to go to the US and study today, or UK or Australia today. Then I do believe that a lot of people will come from all over the world for the medical expertise of India, because India will definitely become leader in technology, in medicine and in surgery and all of that. So I would say the future looks good. The future looks promising. However, there is one caveat, and that is we have to become a progressive culture. We have to become a dynamic culture. We have to overcome our apathy. We have to reduce our corruption. We have to embrace our quest for excellence more. We have to learn to conduct ourselves as a secular nation with the best principles of secularism. We have to welcome talent from all over the world, like US has done today. I think if we did all those, we will definitely be a great nation. Now, what is it that TIE can do to help entrepreneurs? I think TIE is a very powerful organization to work with the government to reduce friction to business. If we can conduct a survey amongst our members and then say, what are the top 3 issues that is holding us back? We will only tackle 3 this year. We will not tackle 5. No, 3 only. Then now 1 or 2 of them may be with the state government, 1 or 2 can be with the central government. And there are excellent people, energetic people, enthusiastic people in TIE. If they are charged and if they are given sufficient budget to make sure that they travel to Delhi and they spend time in Vidhan Sauda and sort it out and make progress.
Exactly.
That's one. Now, if we did it for 5 years, I'll tell you, you would have eliminated the top 15 problems. Now, some of them new problems may come up. After all, that is how dynamic culture works.
Yeah.
But by and large, the bureaucrats would have changed their mindset to become your partners on the one hand. Second, our people will have tremendous confidence in our being able to solve problems, because more and more problems will get solved. So our people will be enthusiastic to tell us about the problems. Second, I think TIE could start monthly classes on entrepreneurship. You see, my own view is that, at Infosys, I focused first on sales and second on finance and third on software and all of that. They're important. I am not saying they're not important, but I believe that sales is the most important part of an enterprise. Because if you're not able to sell your products or services, then there is no company, because there no money comes. Second, if you don't control costs, if you don't use the money properly, then you won't make profits. And you can't go to investors to raise more fund. Your employees will not be happy, etc. So finance is very important. So if you people can conduct classes on what are the ideas of succeeding in digital economy, and who knows, 5 years from now there may be a new kind of economy. How do we handle sales? How do we handle branding? How do we handle finance? Because the technicalities of this I cannot add value, because that could even be a classified information. Nobody would want to share it with others. On the other hand, the finance part of it, the sales part of it, and the branding part of it, the governance part of it, the leadership part of it, the management part of it, all those things are common to all enterprises. So I would say that one, work with the government to reduce friction to business. Second, educate our entrepreneurs to run their businesses efficiently and effectively. I think if we can do those two, I believe an organization like TIE would become the darling of to the hearts of entrepreneurs. That's what I
beautifully said, sir. I mean, you couldn't have summarized it better by I had goosebumps when you were talking about the vision for the country and what we will achieve and the role that entrepreneurs will play.
Yeah.
And as I say, TIE will have to do its alil sevay, the squirrel service of the Lord in a way, in making sure that we are adding some value to the entrepreneurs as we go along. I think reducing friction and accelerating their own growth through sales, etc. I think are super suggestions. We look forward to your guidance, Mr. Murthy, as we do this. We really want to make not just Bangalore. I dream that can every taluk, every district of Karnataka and beyond be entrepreneurial hubs.
Yeah.
And can we really take entrepreneurship to the masses and make the job creation really kick off in the country?
Madan, I'll tell you what you may want to do is one thing that I learned in 1995 was how the analysts in the US write their research reports on companies, how they do business modeling. Unfortunately, Indian analysts were not doing any of that. It was just a waste of time. So two individuals came to us saying that they will take us public, and they made a presentation that opened. Mohan knew. Mohan is always far ahead of me in all these things. But Mohan, Bala and I, we sat down, and they had built a model for Infosys. They had identified revenue drivers, they had identified cost drivers, they did sensitivity analysis. No Indian was doing any of that at that time. Now probably they would do. So my request to you is, you may want to contact your colleagues on the other side of the pond. They may be in a position to hold these classes, because digital economy, new economy and all of that, I don't know how well prepared we are in doing modeling and all of that. Maybe these days I don't spend any time on these kinds of stuff, so I'm not in a position to comment. I may be wrong. But you may want to look at it and invite some of them, because the reason is this: the first lecture, the first set of lectures, you can even do it free. The second lecture, you should charge them heavily. If the first set of lectures were valuable, let me tell you, you'll be highly oversubscribed.
Yeah.
That's when people will realize that they're getting value. You know what economists say. Economists say price is what you pay, value is what you receive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as long as the ratio of value or price is high, people are willing to pay any price.
Exactly.
So why don't you think about it? Why don't you think about it? Sorry.
Yes,
Why
sir.
don't you think about it and do it, because you people are in a position to help a lot of these entrepreneurs to get to the sales, branding, and finance part of it. That most of them are poor in that.
Correct. No, this is such a shot in the arm for us, because we've been contemplating a strategy for TIE for the next 5 years, 10 years, and your inputs will go a long way in solidifying what we have begun, Mr. Murthy. Thank you so much. I realize
Finally, I want to say something. There is a book, probably, Priya, I don't know if you have read that, Madan. It is called Winners Never Cheat. It is, I used to serve on the board of Wharton Business for about 8 years. And the chairman was John Huntsman. He founded a company, chemical company and all. Remarkable individual. I mean, one of the most noble people I have come across. So he wrote a short book. It's available on Kindle. It's called Winners Never Cheat. It is all about the value system needed for leaders of companies. Why don't you people buy a copy of it, Kindle copy, and read it? And if you find it attractive, why don't you recommend it to I find it attractive. I use it very often because it's not a very thick book, a very thin book, but very, very useful. I think there are 9 or 10 chapters. Let me see if I can.
I think one of our attendees have already put the link on the chat, sir.
Wonderful.
Got it.
Wonderful. See, this is what is called smartness.
Exactly.
I tell you, for example, the chapters, it says, circumstances may change, but your values should not. Second chapter is titled, Everything We Need for Today's Marketplace We Learned as Kids. That is every value.
Wow.
Third, we know down well what is right and what is wrong. Fourth chapter is titled, Compete Fiercely and Fairly, but no cutting in line. Fifth, Risk, Responsibility or Accountability and Reliability, the 3 R's of leadership. Sixth, surround yourself with associates who have the courage to say no to you. Seventh, revenge is unhealthy and unproductive. Learn to move on. Eighth, treat competitors, colleagues, employees, investors, vendors, and customers with respect. And the final chapter is titled, Acceptable Values Are a Child's Play, Not Rocket Science. So this is a brilliant book.
Wow.
I mean, John, I think later on, if I'm not wrong, he served as ambassador of the US to China. Remarkable individual.
Wow. It looked like you could have written each of the chapters, Mr. Murthy. It resonates so much with your own philosophy and values.
No, I mean, I have
phenomenal. No, I think
tremendous respect for him. I have learned a lot from him. He's a remarkable individual.
Fantastic. I mean, at some point of time, would love to take you up on another conversation just around this book itself. I think that will be
Yes,
fantastic.
Madan, I don't know whether you were listening. I was actually feeling very greedy. I felt bad, but I felt I must say this. There were two conversations that Mr. Murthy said, yeah, that, okay, I won't discuss it now.
Separate
That's for another day. And I was saying, okay, I'm going to make a note because I want to make sure I catch Mr. Murthy and say, now another day has come. Let's do this.
No, I think the
Mr.
pearls
Murthy,
of wisdom that is there in every word of yours is years of experience packed into an hour. I don't know how the last 1.5 hours went, Mr. Murthy. It just seemed like a blink of an eye. And so grateful for you for your speaking from the heart, packing your experiences and spending this time with us. I know it means a lot to us and to all the entrepreneurs here. I mean, I'm amazed at the number of comments of inspiration that is out there. And I'm sure you would have propelled many entrepreneurs on an accelerated path just by spending this time with us. So grateful for your thoughts.
No, I think I'm very grateful to you for your kindness in giving me that award. I'm very grateful to you for this. Looks like I have an urgent
You
call.
have to head off. So we all applaud you. We have all of our folks on a video. Thank you very much, Mr. Murthy, and we will connect up.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you so much.